All right, welcome everyone to the 40th anniversary of the founding of the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club. As you can see, here today we have many of the past Commodores who have helped guide this club to where it is today, with the help of many, many members, including all of you. You can identify the past Commodores by their snappy, teal-colored 40th anniversary caps. So, feel free, as the day goes on, to introduce yourself and ask them about their time at the club. We want to put on a short presentation and let you hear a word or two from the past Commodores, and I mean that literally. No one will be allowed to say too much. We have some photo boards and scrapbooks in the back from the early days and a rotating slideshow that'll start after our presentation. And we are going to attempt to keep the entire history of the club down to a short presentation so we don't have to call the EMTs to resuscitate any of you or any of the past Commodores who've gotten too old. So here we go. Take it away, John Powell. Come to the mic.
Remember, John, I've got your back.
Hey, look. Good afternoon.
That's enough.
You know, over the last 4 decades and some, I've gotten used to this abuse. And Connie, thank you for telling me what I think. I was the first Commodore. It all began with Bert Babke's and I were in a child care group together. We both liked to sail and decided that sailing was more fun than watching babies, at least sometimes. We also grabbed Rick Grather and put up signs inviting people to join the Coastside Sailing Club. There's Rick down there, take a bow. On May 12, 1978, the first meeting of that group was convened in my house in Montera. The next official site for the meetings was the meeting room of the Eureka Savings Federal Savings and Loan, which is now the Bay, some other bank in there, down at Strawflower. When that was no longer available, we met in the garage of the Harbor Masters building where we sat on life jackets and oil drums, and it was cold. There was a critical mass of enthusiasm, so we formed a club. Mike Day and Connie Malik were identified right away as doers, and they didn't have kids to get in the way. Mike Day suggested we should claim the title, the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club, and volunteered to incorporate the club. So we came into existence formally. Commodore John Powell, Vice Commodore Rick Grather, and Secretary Treasurer Mari Swoblin.
Thanks, John. Mike, did you show both of those first two slides? Yes, okay, good. All right. Next we're going to have Rick Grather come up and say a few words.
Good evening, afternoon. I'm Rick Grather, and I was the second Commodore along with John. I'm kind of new to this group, but old to the club. So anyway, this is what Connie has me saying. In the early 80s, we did a lot of sailing in San Francisco Bay in members' yachts. We sailed to Loch Lomond Yacht Club, and then Loch Lomond sailed to Half Moon Bay for many beach parties. We also did overnight raft ups on Angel Island. We had our first charter on the Ruby Yacht with Josh Pryor on September 14th, 1983, to watch the Big Boat Race Series. Amen.
Thanks, Rick. There are photos in a blue binder in the back there that are from all those things that Rick just mentioned, if you want to look through and see some of the old photos from those events. Okay, next we have Commodore Mike Day.
This is the stern of the joint venture. This was our first club boat. Rick and John got it, brought it here, and we gave members rides in it. It was our committee boat when we held races, even outside the breakwater. And many of our club members actually got their first sailboat ride in this boat, as did both of my children. And so when it finally had to be torn up for scrap, we saved the back of it. And we will find a place to stick it up here on the wall one of these days. All right.
Well, I just have one little thing to say about that too. We didn't have anything but a mooring out here when we first put it out. So we had a lock box. There was a big wooden box that had the life jackets and the key to open up the boat and, just to get into the cockpit. And it was covered in snails. Anytime you wanted to go out to get to the boat, you had to go out and scrape the snails off in your boots and then go get the stuff. And then we had a little dinghy that we also kept over there that was covered in snails. And we'd bring the dinghy over and we'd go out to our boat. So that's our first boat. Escargot, that's right. Yeah. Okay, Mike, you ready with the slides here? All right. Board meetings were held at members' homes. We especially enjoyed meeting in Commodore Jack Cooper's hot tub. That's Patrick right front and center there. All right, and before we had a clubhouse, we also held beach parties in the harbor where we could sail windsurfers and row out to members' boats and go for day sails. Also, many of our members had boats in the bay or in Santa Cruz, and we sailed and raced whenever we could. We eventually held epic beach parties right here in front of the old clubhouse, which was the home of Willie and Herta Binsfeld, who are club members. And there was a beach with a big sand dune out front, and we would have bonfires and barbecues, and Willie and Herta would sit on their deck and laugh at us, be really silly. They also are here tonight, and without them, we would not have a clubhouse because they offered to sell us their property for the club. They've now... They've dropped anchor in Sonoma, and we're glad they're here, and we'd like them to say a few words.
Well, I'm certainly glad that so many people can enjoy the club, and it's sheer pleasure to see all of you here tonight. And I can see that the younger people will have a dinghy class and get them off the street and into the boat. Thank you.
Thank you, Herta. And I don't think they look a bit different than when we knew them 40 years ago. So it's like, you guys are great. Thank you. Okay, so that building was purchased in August the 24th of 1991. And the key people at the club who were really involved in that at that time were Cecil Pearson, who's right here, Cecil, okay, Paul Middletti, and Dan Hertz, who was Vice Commodore at the time. Once we purchased that clubhouse, then we had to increase our membership to be able to afford it. Members stepped up and contributed. Charlie Quest liberated some old piers from the harbor to tie together for a floating dock. Then Kelly Pike created the fabulous ferry, which makes it possible for our club to have a real base for sailing. And Charlie, who's not here yet, is he? Where is he? Where are you, Charlie? Step forward, I can't see you. Hey, Charlie! Oh, get your hat. Here. Hold on to this, Charlie. Say hello.
Well, I was in about 2001. I was told by Peter Kierans that this was a drinking club with a sailing problem, and I didn't perceive that drinking was a problem. So it must be the sailing he was referred to. So I said we could fix that, and somebody started to bring in a bunch of C-15s.
That's you, okay. Charlie embarked on a pilgrimage over most of North America to grab every Coronado 15 that wasn't nailed down so that we could start our fleet of real racing dinghies. And we have an active class of racers here, and we have held the North American Championships in that class for 5 times. And you can see some of the photos there. In order to have a stable keelboat, though, we began to collect Cal 20s. They are a low-cost, solid as a rock, one design from the early 60s. They serve as the backbone of our sailing classes and as most of our active sailing racing fleet. In addition, many members contribute time and effort to start the adult sailing classes, the youth sailing summer camps, and have brought the recognition to the club throughout the West Coast as being one of the best youth sailings in the whole area. I understand Lucy Gillies was very prominent in helping to get those early boats built. I found that out last night at one of her 50th birthday party. And perhaps the largest and most active group we have is the Women's Sailing Program. So women sailors who are here, just stand up for a minute and get recognized, because you're all amazing. They created this program so that women who wanted to experience sailing for themselves could learn and enjoy it. And they are now getting a whole group of people to go up to the San Juan Islands this next September for a women-only sailing experience for a 10-day excursion, correct? 10-day excursion in the San Juan. 7-day excursion in the San Juan. So if you're interested,
Unless we get lost.
see women sailing. All right. All right. All right. Now, in 2004, we also, this is a great slide, you got to see this one. We took 43 club members in 9 boats to the British Virgin Islands to demonstrate the joys of bareboat sailing. Charlie's sons were a real hit. We had an epic New Year's party at Foxy's, and Commodore Charlie Quest was the inspiration. He's also now trying to organize another flotilla to Croatia in September of 2019. So stand by, or better yet, get involved. Okay. Pumpkin Festival in Half Moon Bay was always a chance for nonprofits. Oh yeah, you have to see the. Does Mike look really relaxed there for the first time in his life?
Party on, Garth. That's management.
All right, Pumpkin Festival. That's next. It was one of those chances for nonprofits to make some money. Commodore Gene Del Vecchio organized our first food booth. We sold peanuts and hot egg rolls. Believe it or not, it was a success. But Gene had bigger ideas, and we upgraded to deep fried calamari. This was a huge hit, especially because Commodore Dick Schubert volunteered to keep this monumental task going for over a decade as our primary fundraiser. It was amazing. Now I'd like to recognize the contribution of all of our volunteers. And I'd like to read this quote from Irma Bombeck, which is about volunteers. Volunteers are like yachts. No matter where they are, they arouse our curiosity. Who are they? Where do they come from? Why are they here? They could stay moored where it's safe and still justify their being, but they choose to cut through rough water, ride out the storms, and take chances. They have style. They have fierce independence. If you have to ask how much they cost, you can't afford them. Volunteers and yachts have a lot in common these days. They are both part of an era that is disappearing from the American scene. They are both a luxury in a world that has become very practical. Day by day, the number of volunteers decreases in this country. More and more of them equate their worth in terms of dollars and cents. They are the only human beings on the face of the earth who reflect this nation's compassion, unselfish caring, patience, and just plain loving one another. The Half Moon Bay Yacht Club is a family and has always been a social club. We have been so fortunate to have had the volunteers who have contributed so much to events. This has built the membership we needed to sustain the club. As a member once said about the club, there's always a party, you're always invited, and no one will care if you don't show up. All of the members and volunteers who have contributed to the club over the years are too numerous to name, but many of you out there in the audience are those people. So let's give the club and yourselves a big round of applause to celebrate our service. And one last big accomplishment, with the leadership and skills of Kelly Pike and Urs Willeman, we snookered a bank into giving us a real loan. And we built this event center, which gives us the space we need to have our many activities, as well as showers and heads. This building broke ground in 2008 and was completed in 2009. So next year is its 10th anniversary. Dick and Tammy Schubert did many wonderful things for the club, but one of the most popular events was going out on their y'all journey to watch the K-Fog Kaboom on a fireworks show on the San Francisco waterfront. Being out on the water at night, watching the fireworks synchronized to rock music with the San Francisco skyline lit up in the background was something we will never forget. K-Fog's fireworks is no more. And a few years ago, we also lost Dick Schubert while he was cruising in Mexico. But we will never forget what he brought to the club. Here's to Dick. And those photos are them leaving for their trip to Mexico. That was the day they left our yacht, our harbor, in their yacht on the way. Ed Davis, another past Commodore who we have lost, has said that he escaped the Texas Panhandle by joining the U.S. Navy. Ed owned one of the slickest yachts, a Peterson 34, and was a noted photographer who exhibited his works at the Pumpkin Festival every year. And he also contributed most of the portraits of the past Commodores that hang on the clubhouse wall. Here's Ed. All right, since 1978, we have had 35 different Commodores. This is because some Commodores serve 2 terms. Not all of them are here tonight. We have had Commodores who have moved away, either lost touch or couldn't make the event, and 3 of our past Commodores are on vacation in Bali as we speak. So now we'd like to introduce the past Commodores who are here in order and let them get out their words of wisdom. All right, John, you're first.
Hello again. This is our 60 seconds of fame, right?
Yes.
This is personal stuff, guys, so don't judge the club by it. In 1974, Roz and I were new co-siders, and I was frustrated by the commute to San Francisco Bay to race. Given that we had a beautiful harbor right here, I drove right past it on the way up to the bay. One day, out of the proverbial blue, completely out of any context at the time, I proclaimed to Roz the existence of the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club and informed her that she was the first member at large, leaving implicitly the assumption that I was the Commodore. No Homeric hubris there. Roz, within weeks of giving birth to Tara, our firstborn, mercifully demurred comment. 4 years later, the embryonic club existed, and in support of one of my multiple passions, Roz joined me in the Corinthian Yacht Club's Moonlight Regatta. It began at midnight. We sailed up and back to the, I think it was the South Tower of the Vallejo Bridge, against a flood tide and a westerly, short tacking the San Pablo Bay south shore, which is notoriously shallow. And when we arrived back, Roz was wet, cold, seasick, and had other unexpressed miseries, and was happy to return home to her infant and toddler children. So, Roz, publicly, a bit tardy, I would like to apologize and express my heartfelt appreciation for your support for this and other adventures you've endured as my wife over the decades. Moving on. Bert Baptiste, wherever your soul might be, we miss you. Thank you for co-founding the club, enabling the transition of an idea to a reality, and turning us by, Roz and I, when we were in Corinthian, we saw the Victory 21, which you've seen the stern of it, was for sale. So a number of us, well, hello, welcome, brought it down. But we changed from a club that used to party a lot, which was a good thing, but we would meet in various venues and talk. And with the venture, it turned us into a sailing club because now we had an opportunity to get out on the water and do what this was all about, at least envisioned about. I think Bert, in my mind, probably first amongst others, set the standard for converting talk and ideas into action. And to quote a little bit of wisdom from the Bard, action is eloquence, and Bert enabled that. Lastly, this is a very personal thing, but I'm abusing my time up here. Lucy, thank you for creating our iconic youth sailing program. Roz and I believe it will continue to make and has made a lasting positive impact on our granddaughters. And for that, I wish you were here. I'd like to thank you publicly. Madam Chairwoman, you may now reclaim your time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. So Rick, take it away. And please look at the slides on the screen too.
Me too. Okay. This is a picture of the first Half Moon Bay Pumpkin Festival where we dragged that is the laser. Okay, that's our. We had I had small boats, lasers and windsurfers, and I was more interested in that kind of stuff. And then when I met John and Bert, they said, "Hey, let's form a sailing club," and I thought that sounded pretty cool because we had a bunch of kids coming up, and I thought that'd be a good way for them to learn how to sail. But anyway, and there's another photo of there was that boat. I don't know when this must have been a little bit later. Oh, you know what? The laser, that was the first time we dragged it through town. You know, all the kids were waving on and having a great time being in a parade. And then this was later when we were actually the yacht club, because we started off as just a sailing club. And then Connie and Mike took care of us becoming a yacht club. And I remember I had to nervously speak in front of the PICYA when we joined that. Anyway, it was a great organization. We left here in 1989. I think most of you, this club has changed so much since then with the addition of this. But Willie and Herta were so nice to us early on. We'd park ourselves out here and party in front of their house and use their restroom and all that. So
we brought in porta potties.
Yeah, right. Not then. Not early on. Yeah, we dirtied a number of commodes in the Binsfield's house. Anyway, it was a great time, and thank you all for what you've done here. This is amazing. What a great opportunity for the youth in our area to learn how to sail. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, so I wanted to just say that while I was assembling all these photos over the last week or two, it was just so wonderful. It brought back so many memories, and I wanted to think about the times that were just like really unusual. So there were 3 of them, and I'm going to try to run through these quickly. My first most outstanding memory was the time we almost killed Santa Claus in front of all of our children on the beach. That little boy that you see right there is this person who's videoing stuff to me, my son Jeremy. Basically, the seaplane pilot, who was a bush pilot from Alaska, decided it would be clever to put some antlers on the wing to fly over here. And we had all the kids lined up on the beach, and the plane was coming in, and the adults realized, oh my God, he's gonna crash right in front of us, because he didn't realize the windage that it would cause when he started to land. And the kids were all so excited, and all of us parents were just absolutely scared to death that we were going to mess up our children for life by killing Santa Claus in front of them as he came onto the beach. But he didn't. He survived, and and that Santa Claus practically kissed the beach when he
Was it you, Patrick? Yeah, always Patrick. Patrick was our Santa Claus for many years. And a few other things.
Yeah. Story number 2, and where's Karen Hampton? She's sitting right there. This one came up when we were putting the photos on the boards. Karen and Lisa Fox helped me glue down a number of the photos that you see here today. And as we were putting on the board, she recalled that one of the first times she met me was at a Halloween party where she and Monty were tending bar, and I came dressed as Justice Clarence Thomas. It was the time of the Anita Hill hearings, #MeToo, okay. And I was dressed in a judge's robe with a very long dildo hanging out of the robe. Karen recalled that she didn't know who I was, but I came up next to her and placed the dildo in her hand. Way to start a long-term relationship. And my third story and last is that before we had a youth sailing program, we began a young man, we do have some photos of that in one of the books back there. Okay, we had a young man who came to us, he was in the Sea Scouts, and he wanted to know if he could hang out at the club and learn to sail. His name was Frank Brown. Many of you might remember Frank. Yeah. And he went on, after learning from us, to get a distinguished career in the Coast Guard. One beach party, Frank, who was on leave from the Coast Guard now, was here, and we were around the bonfire out there when a new female member was lamenting that she had joined hoping to meet eligible young sailors. But most of the men and women were married. This is when Frank turned to me and said, "You know, Connie, I've been coming here since I was 10 years old, and I think it's finally going to pay off."
All right. There's a lot of things we can talk about. It's a great club, and we've had a lot of fun. But a story from the old days when we didn't have a club and we just met in the community room at the library, we would have speakers come and talk to us so we could sort of imagine ourselves sailing. We had Norton Smith come and tell us about his tale of taking the Wiley Mini American Express over to England to participate in the single-handed transatlantic race. On the way over to England, he suffered going through 2 hurricanes, including Hurricane Emily. His self-steering didn't work. He had to steer through the storms by himself, tied himself to the tiller. At one point, a wave threw him overboard, and the only reason he got back in the boat was his foot got tangled in the main sheet, and another wave washed him back in. This is all true. You can look it up. he survived this, and then before he got to England, he got another hurricane that knocked him down, and by the time he survived that, he was so exhausted, he slept and just turned the sheets loose and slept in the bottom of the companion hull for 2 days, and when he woke up, the boat had rolled several times during all this, and all of his oatmeal and other food and stuff was just scattered and broken together. The entire inside of the boat was covered in blue fuzz because all this oatmeal had molded. So he wakes up after this horrible experience in some sort of a weird wonderland where blue fuzz. So if you don't think you've had a strange sailing experience, you can still hear about it at this yacht club.
I don't usually have a lot of trouble being heard, but today I'm a little hoarse. Anyway, I'm just going to tell one short story that some of the old timers don't remember. We talked about parties here on the beach in front of William Herder's, but we used to also have parties on a beach that's now covered with dredge spoils over to the left of the pier. There was no inner breakwater, and there was no marina there or anything. And the Loch Lomond Yacht Club folks used to come down here fairly regularly. And there was one old guy known as Doc, and I think that's because he had a PhD. I don't think he was Doc. And amazingly enough, I saw a picture back there, the incident I'm going to mention. He sailed down once with 2 young ladies that he nicknamed Lumpy and Leggy. I'll have to let you figure that out. But, Doc would get pretty well in the bag a lot. And so pretty soon Lumpy and Leggy got into the dinghy and rowed back out to the boat. They were tired of waiting for Doc to go out. So here we are on the beach. Now I was Vice Commodore then, or maybe I was past Commodore at that point, I forget. And we had all this equipment that had to be gotten off the beach and gotten into under Mike and Connie's garage up in El Granada. So pretty soon we had to figure out how to get Doc back out to his boat. And I never did figure out how Mike and Connie did it. I was busy getting the other stuff ready. You want to tell us how you got Doc back to his boat, Connie?
Actually, the harbor master helped us steal a dinghy. It was Mike McMahon. and then we got Doc back out to his boat.
Anyway, there's a great picture back there of Doc with Lumpy and Leggy. Yeah, looking at the picture, you don't know why he called them that.
All right. Okay. Mike, are you going to do Jim Peterson's?
Oh, yeah.
You're going backwards.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. There, all right. We just had an opportunity, some of us past Commodores, to go visit with Jim. Jim has walked with crutches his entire life, but that did not stop him from being an excellent skipper and an amazing sailor. But he's having trouble getting out of his house now, and so he said he regrets he couldn't be here today. But if any of you want to go visit him, he's in El Granada, and Mike's going to give us a story about Jim.
He was also a very good sport, because when we did the Christmas carols, Yacht Club Christmas carols past, I think for Mike Fox, he was willing to play Tiny Tim. But Jim's unable to be with us today, but he is waving at us from out there in El Granada. When the club first rented the building where the American Legion is now, he was involved in as Commodore. That building that the American Legion has fixed up a bit was just a shack. And so they took old shipping pallets and turned them into flooring. And then we also added plumbing, wiring, and toilets to make it a functional clubhouse. At that time, dues were $25 a year. We thought we were going to attract a lot of members around the Bay Area with that price. But we had to increase it to $75 with all the new responsibilities. But it was the club's first real clubhouse. Jim also recalls our first luau and pig roast there, where we dug a pit, put in the stones, lit the fire, and we're going to roast a pig. But one of our members decided the wood in the pig pit wasn't catching fire quickly enough, and he added some accelerant. The resulting flame looked like a jet engine stuck in the ground upside down and shot 15 feet in the air. This attracted the attention of the El Granado Fire Department, who came over with their sirens blaring and taught us about 20 synonyms for the word moron. Jim was also heavily involved when we got the clubhouse here with Cecil and everybody else who was involved, and he recalls working on a backhoe with Colin Fiora to make some beach access and to even out Vassar Avenue. And at that time we had 125 members who carried us into the future with the new club. And he also recalls another pig roast here on this property with similar enthusiastic fire building issues. But at this time, the FAA got on us for distracting pilots who were trying to land at the airport. And Jim sends his best to all of you. Okay, that's Jim's boat, the Risk. He was an active racer in the express fleet. He's at the helm at that boat. All right, Michael Fox.
Hi, I'm Mike Fox. I was Commodore in 1989. I was the club's youngest Commodore. I was 12 years old at the time. And I was actually part of that debacle where we blew up the pig. It was quite fun.
Call yourself a chemist?
Yeah, well, you know, it was the accelerant, you know, high-tech stuff. Yeah, he was there. Yeah. Anyway, my very first recollection was the Commodore's Ball when we had it down where Shoreline Station is. It was in a public function room down there. I think there's a church in there now or something. But anyway, they did skits for the outgoing Commodore to introduce the incoming Commodore, and this was Gene Del Vecchio's outgoing skit. And it was the Pirates of the Caribbean. And Gene was dressed up as a pirate and had a stuffed parrot on his shoulder. And the parrot kept falling off dead. And everybody was having a good time, drinking a lot. That was the sailing problem, no, the drinking problem. But anyway, that's when I realized, the buzzword there was, only the
Them's that die.
Them's that die are the lucky ones. And I realized at that time that this was one fun organization. And it has never let me down since then, because there's always good parties, good friends, good food, and a lot of joy in the Yacht Club. And I'm proud to be a member for, I guess, the last 25, 30 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jennifer. Woo! Here she is. The Queen of Queens.
Hello, everybody, and I want to thank you all for coming to the 40th anniversary celebration, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and the women out there that are women, because even if you're not a real mother in the sense of having children.
I'm a mother.
I believe it!
I want to acknowledge you too. The year that I became Commodore, needless to say, I followed Ed Davis, and it was the previous year Devil Slide slid. It was closed for 9 months. It had a very severe impact on all businesses north of Half Moon Bay. Well, a lot of business, some business went out of business, and we were very close to being on the oh my God list. The first thing that happened when I got into the chair, I looked at the board and I said, "We need cash now! Oh my God, look at this!" I went to the bank account, and the only thing that I got out of the bank account were moths fluttering as I said, "What happened to our money?" We were down to 25 membership. So the board and I came together and said, We need cash now. We need cash now. In fact, you know that We Need Cash Now group that advertises, they got that idea from us, okay? Also, we went into what I call extreme fundraising. We needed cash now, and I mean it, we need cash. So we beefed up the bar with what we could afford to increase the selections of beers, because we figured if we had more beer, people would drink, we would make money. And then we did spaghetti feeds every Friday night. In fact, we ate so much spaghetti that when you went to compliment the galley crew, they would answer back, "Prego, prego." We should have bought stock in "Prego, prego." The next thing we did was we had white elephant sales, and we sold everything that wasn't nailed down in the club. And I know we had gone just a little bit too far when the bookkeeper came out and said, "Have you seen my office chair?" Right. And we also decided that we really, really needed to beef up our membership. And I'm not going to go there because, well, we did, okay? The other thing we did was, who remembers this? Calamari! 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 In fact, we really got into calamari, and it's the first year that I teamed up with Dick Schubert. And he and I loaded his brand new Explorer with calamari that was defrosted and put in these green or blue, what do you call those? Ice
Tubs.
Coolers, yes. And no one told us that even if you put a blue tarp down, calamari has a way of finding itself into the carpet. Yes. That's the first year we had to torch a car. Okay? The other thing that happened was, what I realized in that experience was the synchronicity of being together with everyone in a fundraising event. Come Wednesday morning, about 4:00 a.m., everybody that worked in that booth shot out of bed going, "What's that smell? What's that smell?" Anyway, that was my experience with the calamari booth. And I'm going to say that I was so proud of the efforts that everybody made that year. We went from being deep in the red to being just above the black line. And being above the black line is a good thing. And I have to say, we never looked back. And I'm proud to be a part of the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club. Thank you.
All right, so my apologies here because we missed somebody before Jennifer that I have no idea how I did this, because Cecil Pearson was Commodore in 1991. And I had just had my second child, and you know, I was a crazed mother with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I was down on the beach one night when Cecil locked up the club while Mike and I were having a bonfire and said, "Do you want to go back in?" And we said, "No, just lock it up." Well, before we were going to go home, I said, "Mike, I think I want to use the bathroom." So I went back to the club, opened up the door, and it was this loud snoring. And there was a drunk man I'd never seen before locked in the club that Cecil had locked in when he left. So here it is, Cecil Pearson.
Oh, thank you, John. I don't remember the thing. But at that time, our membership was 125 people, and we wanted to buy this club. And I beat up everybody to give money. Give money, give. We collected more than Celeste did, but we managed to buy this club from Willie and Herda. And we had a good time. We tried to party a lot in the clubhouse. And we put a jukebox in the corner and danced and had a really good time. And we dreamed about having a dock out there.
like we never would have one, and didn't even think about it, this wonderful clubhouse that we have here today. But now we have the clubhouse and the dock and more members than you could even think about. And it just keeps growing and growing, and we're having such a wonderful time. I know that someday there'll be 1,000 members here.
There'll be a line at the restroom.
So that's all I'm going to say. But just keep on growing, keep on building, and keep on sailing.
All right, Chelsea, you're up.
Well, first of all, I really want to thank Connie and all the other people who helped make this 40th anniversary event possible. It's been so great coming back and seeing all these friends that we haven't seen for a long time. So thanks to you and to all the others. Kathy and I joined the club when we were looking for a place to launch a small boat, small being 11 feet long. Still have it. It's in the garage at our home. It was a boat that we wanted to, the idea was to car top it, but then I bought a Miata, so, you know. But we were thinking, trying to see places to launch it, and came across this club and inquired about joining and thought, hey, this would be a nice place to join. And we did. And we really enjoyed it. I enjoyed teaching sailing. That was a really fun thing, and was really happy that one of my students became Commodore. So did a variety of things, joined the board, eventually became Commodore. It was an interesting year to be Commodore, but we won't go into that.
It was the Julian and the dining deck. Any of you remember that? We'll just leave it as that.
But in spite of it being an interesting year, I found it a very rewarding year. And I'd like to piggyback on the Irma Bombeck statement that Connie read. I encourage you to get involved with the club. As I said, we started just because it looked like a fun place to be, and then we gradually got more and more and more involved. And I really encourage you to do that. Some of you may be new to yacht clubs. I was when I joined, never been a member of a yacht club. Don't let that worry you. This is a great organization, and there are lots of people that can answer questions if you're thinking of joining the board. And if you become Commodore, you will be given a lot of support, because as the tagline says, the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club is a community of friends.
Thank you.
Harry, you're next. Where's Harry Esselstein?
There we go.
I got to go back when Dick Schubert was Commodore for one tale. Everybody thinks, how many of you think when we bought that building, we bought the whole thing? We didn't. When we bought the building, we bought where the building is. We were renting where you're sitting right now. And this was a time I was treasurer, and every month I had to decide which bills I could pay depending on how much money was in the treasury at the time. You know, do I pay the mortgage payment? Do I pay PG&E? Well, let's see. We can't keep the mortgage payment paid, and we'd go without electricity if we had to. At that time, we also, Dick looked at it and said, we had an option to buy this property, the boatyard property. So whilst we were not able to pay our bills as nicely as we'd like to, we exercised the option and purchased the lot here. Now, when I was Commodore, we had just started dealing with the building department about the building that's sitting here now. And besides having a hell of a time getting Colin and Gordon to board meetings to tell us what was going on, we were dealing with the planning commission, who I got to know at the same time. And there was one thing that's interesting. What the plan was is not what you're sitting in right now. The original plan was to have where you're sitting right now about 15 foot higher in the air, so that our deck out front would have the most incredible, spectacular view of the harbor that existed. Unfortunately, a lot of people may not know, we are on sand, and we had to put pilings down, I forget, 60 to 100 feet. And they would have had to go down way farther if we were going to have it 15 foot in the air. Although the good news is, when this building was built, it was built with the possibility of putting a second floor on top of it. So when you're thinking of income and what to do with your money, the building can handle it. All you got to do is build it. And apparently when we built it, people came, because after this building was built, all of a sudden we had the capability of doing things that we never thought of doing before. And look at the club now. I mean, our sailing programs have gotten incredible awards. And we're well known in the Bay Area. And the drinking club, for some reason, has been sublimated to a real sailing organization. And so here's the people that are out there doing the sailing and keeping us in the news there.
Yeah, I want to agree.
Thanks so much, Larry. That's very true. All right, Charlie, you're up. Here we go. Dr. Quest.
I thought about a few things to say, and I really said most of what I was going to say a while ago, but you keep people hearing people say, get involved. And when I was Commodore, we had to write a monthly letter for the Ahoy from the helm, and it was my notion that when do volunteers get paid back? And the answer is immediately. If you're not having fun at the club, you should either leave or do the really smart thing, and is get into the volunteering part, and you will make this place a lot more fun for yourselves and for all of us. The support will be there for you, and it's a great opportunity. I could ramble on, but I think not. I'll turn it over to the next Commodore, who was not sure that she could do it, but we assured that she was quite capable, and indeed she was. Connie.
Kay Burns. Woo! Not only did this woman lead us, but she contributed financially to us.
I appreciate your patience. I'm sure you're hungry. I've been a member of this club for 40 years. And I truly do miss the calamari booth and the pig roast and, the camaraderie that we formed. And, over the years, we've changed a lot. In the beginning, we were a small group. And we became an extended family in many ways. We saw marriages happen. Joyce and Tom met here and got married. We saw children born, and sadly, we saw our members leave and die, those that just left. The volunteerism is what keeps this club going. I don't want to say a whole lot more. I was honored to be the Commodore in 2006 while we were getting this building going, and part of the committee with many people here in this room that agonized over the lights and the window screens and so much that went into this. But it's a good group, and thank you all for being here. Thank you.
All right, Kelly and the Docks.
Docks. What's up?
That was your skit. Do you remember?
Yes.
Kelly and the Docks.
Kelly and the Docks. That's good. What I remember most about the 2 years as Commodore was we built the building. And when I say we built the building, it's more of the membership. They contributed over $25,000 in their own skills for free on a $500,000 building. There were people on this site every day we were building giving us advice. We got a lot of advice. That also happened in the year 2008 when the economy pretty much crashed out here in Half Moon Bay. Nobody was working in the trades, except we were building this building. So when we called a subcontractor, they were right here. What can we do? So we tried to keep all the subcontracting inside of Half Moon Bay as much as we could, unless the service just wasn't offered and we had to go over the hill. So we got it built. Huge number of people were involved, and I was always being asked, so what's the club going to be like? You know, what about this problem? What about that problem when we're doing this? And my only reply was, it'll be different. I don't know what it's going to be, but the history up to this point is now changing because we're building this building, and that has proven to be true. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. It is true. If you build it, they will come. All right, it's time for Neil, I believe. Is that right? No. We have Terry Leahy. Oh my gosh, Terry. And you made it from racing.
Thank you. I wanted to mention that I looked one day in the Half Moon Bay Review and saw that the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club was offering adult sailing classes. It was 1992, and Dick Schubert was our lead teacher, and Cecil and Chelsea were also teachers who taught me to sail back then, and that was the beginning of getting a lot of members to join who wanted to sail, and it sure got Steve and I involved in sailing. So we're so glad we're here, and we love teaching other people how to sail. So take advantage of that opportunity. The Bay Area is a fabulous place to jump on a boat. I also want to mention that I was lucky enough to follow Kelly, and I was Commodore when we moved into this building, and it was quite a kick to get our ABC license with Harry's help and Lisa's help and everybody's patience. So this is a great place to be, and we're looking forward to a lot more years. Thank you.
Hey, here's your hat.
Oh, thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. Well, thanks for putting this on.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is great. I've been a member for 16 years now, and I was on the board for 6 years, and it's a lot of work and a lot of fun, I can tell you that. I've had so many great moments and situations. We started this sailing committee just because we wanted to do things, and we didn't want to ask, so we just started a committee. You remember that, Spencer? And beautiful moments like seeing Spencer sitting on the deck with his two girls out in the sailboat goofing off in the water, and him working. This is a weekday, and him getting all the work done. I have to thank everyone, especially all the people that went before, for making this property possible. To be able to actually own our property is so exciting, and be, the masters of our own fates. That's really exciting. And like I said, I've had a great fun and enjoyed every moment. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ray Durazo, Commodore Ray Durazo.
Thank you, Connie. In preparation for this event, all of us were asked to remember a particular thing that happened in this club that stands out among everything else as a really memorable event. I chose what I refer to as the Great Feral Cat Debate. Which took place in the middle of my administration. And the good news was it was the first general membership meeting where we had standing room only. Lots of people on both sides of the issue. It got a little heated at times, but in the end, as this yacht club has always managed to do, we came out with a win-win situation in which both sides of the debate were taken care of. The issue, in 25 words or less, we had a bunch of feral cats.
we had always had a bunch of feral cats, and the decision was made that maybe we needed to thin the herd, which raised a great deal of objections from cat lovers in the club. And I have to say to you, in my own defense, I have 6 cats at home at the moment. My wife is the all-time cat lady of Moss Beach. But we hammered out a compromise, and it resulted in modifications being made to the physical structure and the creation of a shelter for the feral cats. And volunteers came out every day to feed the cats and to make sure that they were happy and contented and well fed. And so today, Half Moon Bay Yacht Club is an exception to the entire Bay Area. We're the only club with our own cat house.
And I want to point out that Marguerite, are you here? She still shows up every morning to feed the cats. You're not the only one, all right, but she's one of the ones, all right. Mike?
Natalie couldn't be here. Natalie Sturm couldn't be here tonight. Her family surprised her by all coming up from Southern California to take her out for a Mother's Day weekend. And so since they did that, she didn't feel she could say no. So she's with her family today instead of here. But she was very sorry she couldn't come. And she asked me to say, what are the 4 words that describe my passion for the Half Moon Bay Yacht Club? Duty, love, camaraderie, and hope. In 2011, we joined Half Moon Bay Yacht Club, and I offered my services as secretary under Ray's Commodoreship. She and her husband Mark moved their 1965 60-foot wooden powerboat from Oyster Point to Pillar Point, and she was very excited about joining the board, an organization she describes as having diversity, age, ethnic background, gender, and professional prowess. And the fact that we made her dog Morgan welcome was very much appreciated. She later served as port captain, vice commodore, and 2 years at the helm as commodore. And other highlights included winning the Nimitz Award earlier in 2011. The Goddess of the Sea Award was created in 2015 for the woman who contributed the most of the overall success for the year. And, they executed a new 30-year loan for the Event Center. The Half Moon Bay Yacht Club Foundation was created. In 2015, Claire Sheehan led a membership drive which brought in 110 new members in one day and 168 for the year. And she describes these as years full of love, camaraderie, and companionship. Thank you very much, Natalie.
Howard. Good, Howard.
Well, you know, I got here. I was attending bar and getting you guys some drinks beforehand, so I really needed a drink. I was like, okay, if everyone 1 minute, 2 minute, 3. God, oh my God, it's gonna be like 45 minutes. You're done. Get out of there. Thank you very much.
You're gonna owe us all a drink.
Yeah.
Everyone here.
First off, I'd like to take a step back, and for all of you that are veterans, we have a holiday coming up. How many of you are veterans out there? By a show of hands. Could you stand up?
Yeah. Woo! Veterans.
Thank you for your service. The next people I'd like to thank are all those spouses that were spouses of Commodores. Please stand up.
Momadors.
Thank you for your tolerance. So I have a couple of really, really great memories from here. First one was, we had this youth regatta. We had like 70 boats out there. It was blowing like stink. It's 48 degrees. There's like 5 different kinds of humidity and rain coming down. And we've got these kids coming out and they're just free. They're blue. and making hot chocolate for those kids was just priceless and one of my favorite things that I ever got to do. It was just amazing. Now, I was talking to John Powell a couple nights ago, and there was alcohol involved. And he said, and I said, you know, despite we've got this building, we got boats, we got all kinds of fun things that go on, but you know what the real wealth of this club is in all of its members. So that's probably like my biggest thing. It's been wonderful being part of this extended family. You know, we do things in a very low-key way, but man, this is the best quality yacht club type experience that you will find on the West Coast, at least. Anyways, that's it. Thank you.
Ian McGee is not here.
I'm sorry. There's one other vivid memory. The day that Scott and Ian both had said yes to being Vice Commodore and Rear Commodore, because that meant that I think guys are way smarter than me.
Thank you, Howard. Unfortunately, I don't see Ian here today, so our current Commodore is Scott Pine. Take it over, Scott. Woo!
Well, on some level, I don't even deserve to be up here because I'm the only member of this august body whose warranty hasn't actually expired yet. I thought about a couple of incidents that happened during my rear commodoreship, wondered if those were appropriate to share. The one with the member from the St. Francis Yacht Club who called here one Sunday afternoon while I was on watch, saying he wanted to stop by for a drink while they were driving down the coast, but he wasn't sure about the dress code. Because I couldn't see him, he was only on the phone, I was actually able to say, no sir, actually, we do have a dress code, you must dress, this is not a clothing option. I don't think he said anything else before he hung up. And I could also talk about the time when a collection of high school sailors during another one of those blowing 25 in the pouring rain kind of youth regattas in late in the year, actually managed to capsize our ferry, believe it or not. But in lieu of both of those, I actually want to ask all of you while you're here tonight to go behind the screen of the slideshow. And I mean that literally, not just because Mike Day was trying to hide back there earlier, but because there are two trophies in that trophy case that I want all of you to look at while you're here. One of them is the Admiral Chester W. Nimitz Trophy, which the club won last October for the second time, I might add, for having the best youth sailing program in the Bay Area. But the other one, which I think there's a plaque that lives right in front of the Nimitz Trophy, is the Garrett W. Horder Award from PCYA, the Pacific Coast Yachting Association, which we won just a few months ago for having the best youth sailing program on the entire west coast of the U.S. So for those of you who still think of the club as the hidden gem on the coast, whether we're hidden or we're just lucky that we haven't been found out yet, we're kind of getting some publicity and getting to be a real yacht club these days. I think we can safely say we no longer have a sailing problem. I don't think I can say anything about the drinking problem. Anyway, it's getting very close to the time when we said we were going to actually feed everybody. And so that's it for me. I'm going to turn the ceremonies back over to our mistress of ceremonies right about now.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to pass out a few words to the song that we're going to sing. Believe it or not, it was our first skit that we did. But while I'm doing that, Herta Binsfield would like to say a few words. So, you know what? Go ahead. Yeah, she does.
All right, here's you. All right, there you go. Okay, I just thought to let you know, when we came back from a trip in '72, and
this building was for sale. I didn't like it, but really fell in love with it. And we lived here for 21 years, and I wasn't really happy. I had to shovel so much dirt, sand out of that house. Weekends was always with friends and parties. But then, listening to everything here today, I'm glad we went through it, and Willie and I are happy that you all have a good time and a good place.
Okay, we're going to have a short announcement about the dinner arrangements from Tammy.
All right, everybody. So before the song comes, everybody, there is a sign-up table out in front to pick up your tickets and your wristbands for the rest of the evening and your dinner. We're going to transform a few things up in here that we need to do. So if you could all just, after the song and all, get your tickets and everything, and then we'll call dinner and you'll roll by the kitchen and then come in here and pick up all your sides and then get to the tables, okay? Good? We're good.
Okay, so our final thing is that as many of you know, we love costumes, we love having fun. And at, we always did skits for the Commodores, starting not with the very first Commodores, but with Gene Del Vecchio, because he and Lane Tribe, another Commodore, liked to dress up in outfits that kind of spoofed the blue blazer shirts, at some of the more traditional clubs. Putting on epaulets, dozens of buttons. One time they even did lights that lit up on their jackets. Okay. So to honor Gene, we sang a song which mentions our first big pig roast, which you probably heard about, and you'll recognize this little ditty as set to California Girls by the Beach Boys. Hold on just a minute. All right, Jennifer, do you want your hat? Jennifer, here's your hat. Okay. Jennifer has her hat. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay, now we are totally not very good at this, so you all have to join in with those words and help us. All right, ready?
Let's see everything you want.